Securities lawyers often worry when issuers conduct multiple private placements within a short period of time, as well as when companies conduct private and public offerings within a short period of time. Immediately, one thinks about integration. The concept of integration has been around for a very long time and refers to the notion of issuers trying to circumvent registration requirements by separating a single, non-exempt offering into multiple pieces, each of which purportedly would qualify as an exempt offering. If you think about the integration of private placements and look to Regulation D, there's a 6-month safe harbor. That is, if multiple Regulation D offerings are separated by a 6-month period of time, they won't be integrated. Under Regulation D, there's also an integration doctrine which has come to be known as the 5-factor test, used to determine whether multiple Reg D offerings ought to be integrated with one another and treated as part of the same offering. And then one can evaluate whether there's an exemption that would be available for the entire integrated offering. In terms of thinking about the 5 factors, we look to see whether the individual offerings are part of a single financing plan, whether the issuer is issuing the same class of securities in multiple offerings, whether sales are occurring at or about the same time, whether the same type of considerations being received, and whether proceeds are going to be used for the same general purposes. You can tell by the 5 factors that many of these are not going to be particularly helpful in real life in evaluating whether offerings ought to be integrated with one another. Over time, the SEC has moved to create a number of safe harbors from integration. So, for example, there's a safe harbor for offshore offerings. Regulation S offerings taking place outside of the United States are not going to be integrated with offerings taking place in the United States. Rule 152 provides an integration safe harbor to the extent that transactions by an issuer not involving a private offering are deemed completed before a subsequent public offering is commenced. Similarly, Rule 155 provides a pathway for moving from a private placement to a registered offering, or a registered offering to a private placement. These often are very useful where the market has become volatile and an issuer has to retain some flexibility and move from one offering format to another. Over time, the SEC staff also has issued no-action letter guidance, Black Box and Squadron Elenoff, and that line of letters that provides for certain circumstances under which a private placement to existing security holders needn't be integrated with a subsequent public offering. More recently, we've all come to focus on the guidance contained in Compliance and Disclosure Interpretation 139.25, and that addresses a concurrent private offering with a registered public offering. And the focus is instead on how the investors in the private offering were solicited, whether they were identified or contacted in connection with the public offering, or whether, in fact, the investors in the private placement were reached without the benefit of or not using the registration statement. There are a lot of unanswered questions when it comes to integration, especially following the Jobs Act, which brought about a number of different exempt offering formats.